investigations team is in charge of the field. Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Investigations team. Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Investigations team. Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Investigations team.
Welcome to another edition of the Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Radio. On the lines with me today, I have the Mothman Warrior 1.0, the Archangel, King Gray, and myself, King Sassy. So, today's show is going to be about Mel's Hole and other endless pits and endless holes and things like that. What do you think of today's show there, Nick?
I don't know, but I want to put it in the hole. Oh, God. Yeah, I think today's going to be pretty interesting. We've done a couple shows that talk about Mills Hole and various other bottomless pits in the past, so let's get cracking on this one and have some fun.
All right, I'll get started with some news for today. A Texas teenager charged in the stabbing of his 14-year-old friend said an Ouija board told him to carry out the attack. The 15-year-old boy has been charged with attempted murder after stabbing his friend with a 4-inch knife at the end of February in a wooded area behind a high school in West Laco, a small town along the U.S.-Mexico border in the southern tip of Texas. The victim was treated in intensive care for 3 days for a severe laceration through his intestines. Alleged assailant, whose name is not made public, has no history of mental problems and criminal behavior. What do you think about that, Brent?
I mean, if an Ouija board is going to tell you what to do, I mean, you got to do it, right?
Yep.
I agree.
You think that something really told him to do that on the Ouija board, like a demonic entity or something, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of accounts of demonic presences with Ouija boards, but yeah, I mean, if a kid's messing around with it and he doesn't know what's going on, of course he's an adolescent, so I mean, you can like with something like that, he doesn't know what's going on. I'm pretty sure he got manipulated real easily by the Ouija board.
Yeah, or he's just ignorant.
Yeah, that's
And a Ouija board told Brent to buy his car, so he did.
I did.
Yep.
I listened.
An Australian farmer looking for his lost cat stumbled upon a hole that he thinks might contain the greatest UFO find of all time. The guy's name is Franz, and he's 47. It says he found a 25-foot deep, perfectly round hole in the northwestern Austrian field while searching for the cat. He pulled out every investigative trick in the book to learn what was at the bottom. He says, I managed to get the big magnet, which I dangled down there, and it clearly fastened onto something at the bottom. There is something large and metallic down in this hole. It also sounds like there's a big hollow space around it, so whatever the metal object is, it's as if there's a room underneath or around the object. He even called a local plumber who lowered a camera down into the pit, but the camera failed just as it reached the object. And Franz says he thinks the interference may have been caused by some sort of electrical field down there. An archaeologist in the area said that the hole could have been formed when wooden timber from an underground burial chamber rotted away. So that goes along with today's topic, really. What do you think's in this chamber, Brent?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of interesting that there's something metallic at the bottom of it. I mean, could be a number of things.
Metallica's down there.
Metallica's down there?
Yeah, Metallica's down there.
He just drops a magnet onto James Hetfield's head, tries to pull him out.
But I was going to say, though, what do you think, Nick? Do you think this is a possibility that there could be a UFO underground in this hole?
There's a possibility. Now, I don't want to argue for... Well, I'll say what I think it is based on what the archaeologist said. And it probably is some sort of a coffin or sarcophagus-like thing which the magnet is grabbing onto. Or perhaps it could be some type of thing that was buried in the burial chamber that the archaeologist said that hole most likely was. That's my guess.
So you think that this was like an ancient alien-type place?
No, I mean, it's a possibility, but I just think it's a place where, I just think it's a burial chamber, and he happened to stumble upon the burial chamber, and I think it's a very cool archaeological find, but I don't see enough evidence to really believe that it's a UFO per se. I mean, it could be, but I just don't see enough evidence, and the only evidence we really have right now is the opinion of the archaeologist who knows that area fairly well, apparently, so I'll go by what he says.
They did say that they tried sending down a few cameras, and all the cameras would get scrambled and messed up before it got to the bottom.
And that's an interesting phenomena right there, and that could lead us more in the direction of an extraterrestrial presence. But, again, I just have to see more evidence. I don't sound skeptical. I am being skeptical, but I just like to see more evidence before I really make a sound judgment on that, or I would make a sound judgment on anything.
You think it's... Brent's going to rip you a new one. He says it's an alien.
He's going to come down to Cleveland and he's going to come get me.
He's going to rabbit you. A Florida man has created his very own Egyptian sarcophagus and plans to be mummified before he's put in it when he dies. Fred Gwentert, age 89, from Orlando, has spent a quarter of a century making the 21st 7-foot-long tomb out of prime cedar wood. He crafted the casket by teaching himself expert carpentry skills from scratch and studying ancient Egyptian designs through second-hand textbooks. Painted in the royal colors of the ancient pharaohs, Mr. Gwentert plans to be placed inside the sarcophagus when his number's up. So what do you think about that one, Brent? You gonna start building your sarcophagus?
You know it.
Yeah, we need to make a sphinx with Brent's face on it, like that picture that Tim photoshopped, Brentius Maximus, the bust of the ancient Roman statue with Brent's face. We have to get a giant sphinx with Brent's face on it.
Can you imagine? Seriously, though? Let's say if what do you call it? If one of your friends died and let's go. You're gonna be one of the pallbearers for the funeral, and you look and you're literally carrying the coffin into a giant tomb like a pharaoh. How bizarre that would be.
That would be weird.
Yeah. Brent, so how big is your tomb going to be?
I don't know. I would say it would have to be at least 1,200 to 2,000 square feet at least.
Look at the high roller here.
Yeah,
exactly. Is it going to be the shape of a pyramid or just an elaborate courtyard?
It's going to be an elaborate courtyard with, I'm going to be buried with all my servants.
So Bruce is going to be in there too?
Yeah, but they got to be buried alive though. That's the thing.
Oh, okay.
I know, like the ancient Egyptians, it was common that they would murder their wives or their close friends and get them put in the tombs. I heard in this one, a few instances.
Wow.
Anyways, the best article is for last, because I knew you guys would get a kick out of this. 2 schoolgirls committed suicide in an attempt to travel through time, possibly inspired by popular TV shows, according to state-owned newspaper in China. The case brings the issue of time travel. Center television shows it back in the spotlight in China, which recently implemented a ban of these types of shows during primetime hours, according to the paper. The China Daily reported that the girls, both 5th graders in East China's Fujian province, drowned themselves in a pool, and that's behind a suicide note that suggests they were hoping to become time travelers after death. One of the girls allegedly wrote that she had dreams of traveling back to the Qing dynasty and visiting outer space. Other may have had another motive. She was worried about telling her parents that she had lost the remote control to the garage door, the paper reports.
Yeah, that's...
You want to go first on this one, bro?
There's... I don't know how you would time travel by killing yourself.
Your celestial body goes into the next higher consciousness, duh.
But no, what I was saying was she must be really scared that her parents are going to get mad at her over that garage door opener.
They're probably going to beat her with rice bags.
What?
They're probably going to beat her with rice bags. Well, Brent, you're Asian. Did your mom ever use any clever things on you as a kid growing up to discipline you?
Me or Brent?
Did she use what?
Your mom's Filipino, so did she use any clever things on you to discipline you?
Yeah. Like a coat hanger.
Oh.
A back scratcher.
Well, maybe that didn't make you want to go back into time, though?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, we're going to get started with today's topic. We have about 47 minutes left in the show. But, all right, so, Nick, would you like to tell our audience a little bit about Mel's Hole?
Sure. Well, Mel's Hole is located out in Utah, right, Jer? It's been a little while since I've glossed over this story. Washington State. It's over in Washington State, and it's on, it used to be private property, but the government bought that land and put a military base there, I believe, and now it's blacked out on any satellite map you would try. If you were to try and attempt to look at this hole in its location, it's blacked out on all satellite photographs, which is an interesting thing. But basically, a guy found it one day in his private property, and he saw this pit which went down. He threw some rocks down there, and he never heard the rocks hit the bottom. So one day he decided to try to lower a large amount of rope each day into the pit. And he kept lowering it day by day, and he never reached the bottom of the hole. So then they attempted to get a team of people to send someone down there to see if they could find the bottom of this hole. And they sent a guy down there, and when they brought him back up, he was a raving lunatic saying he was attacked by demons and some other weird creatures, and he was just absolutely insane. He went down a perfectly normal, sane person and came up a lunatic. So this hole is a lot of mystery, and there's just a lot of stuff surrounding this hole.
So, to get started, talking about Mel's Hole, I would think that Mel Waters in Washington State, he said that it all started because he found this large hole on this property that he had bought. Apparently, he said that he was throwing his old appliances down the hole to start with, like old refrigerators, washing machines, things like that. And he said that he would never see it hit the bottom like Nick was saying. Or you couldn't even hear a thud, no nothing. So like Nick was saying, he started reeling down 1 mile of wire every single week or every day for years, and it still never reached the bottom. But I guess, what do you think about Mel's hole, Brad, before we get more deeper into this?
For me, I think it's really interesting that there's all these holes all over the world that are endless, especially Mel's hole, since certain accounts that happened with it, and I don't know. I don't know where they would actually lead to or where they would go, but I mean, it would be interesting to find out what was actually at the bottom, if there was a bottom.
Because some people say it's almost like the hollow earth theory. They think that it leads to the center of the earth, or some people think that it leads to hell, is what some people think, because you figure they lowered the sky down on almost like on a rope or like in a cage type thing almost. And like Nick was saying, he said there was like demonic things, like demons and things like that, poking at him and prodding him and driving. Literally, like Nick said, he came out and he was insane. He was never normal for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Didn't think that it might lead to hell, Nick?
Well, no. I'm getting my answer from an old Reese's Cup commercial, I believe. Remember where in the old Reese's Cup commercial in the 90s where the kids would dig a hole for the earth and they go to China? I think the hole might go to China.
Well, a more interesting point. I think Nick forgot to mention this one. They tried lowering down numerous cameras into the hole. And every single time they'd bring these cameras down into this hole, they would literally either melt or they would get scrambled after they got so far down into this hole. So wherever the hole is going, it's obviously very hot, or the electromagnetics in the hole are just off the hook. One of the two. How hot do you think that? I know Nick knows more about this kind of stuff than I do. I was going to say, Nick, do you know anything about how hot it would have to be in that hole to melt that camera?
Well, if the camera melted, it'd have to be pretty darn hot. I mean, the average oven goes to about 500-600 degrees tops. I had a grill. My dad had a grill when I lived with him back out in Vegas that would go up to 800 degrees, and I turned it all the way up one time to see how hot it got, and that was really, really hot. But that still, I don't believe, would have been hot enough to melt a camera. It could have melted some of the components, perhaps, but not a full meltdown that you're describing. So the heat down in the hole would have to be pretty hot. And there's also one more factor, which I don't think we've ever talked about. The pressure down there, I believe, is a lot higher than it is on the surface. You know how you go deep in the water and the pressure crushes things? And I think that's the case, too. If you go deep in the ground, the pressure down there is very, very dense, so it would crush anything that goes down there. So if you try to lower a camera into the bottom of that hole, it's going to face a large amount of heat and pressure, so it's going to get melted and crushed.
Yeah. Well, what's odd, I guess Mel was saying a few years back, he was saying something about he would see strange lights around the top of this hole, I guess the rim of the hole. They'd see strange lights coming out of the top of the hole, and I guess he said periodically when he would wake up in the morning, if he'd walk over to this hole, he said there would be strange crosses and religious artifacts around the top of the hole. What do you think this is, Nick?
Well, we could go with two hypotheses or two guesses here. The first one I'll call the skeptical or the so-called rational answer, where teenage kids would come in the middle of the night and just plant things there to be stupid. That's one answer that's possible. Another possible answer, if we go with the more supernatural orientation, is that some type of demonic forces come out of the ground at night and place those objects there themselves.
But the thing I was wondering was, where are these lights coming from? He said there was like green and red lights and things like that around the top of the hole or coming out of the hole for that instant. I was saying, where do you think those come from?
Well, I'm not an expert on geology or geothermal activity, etc., but I've never heard of any gases that are emitted from the earth that make that type of color. So that would lead me, based on my knowledge, to a more supernatural orientation as to where those lights come from.
You have an answer for that, Brent?
Oh, what's that?
I said, where do you think those lights are? Where do they come from, or what are they? When, I guess, like I was telling Nick, Mel sees strange lights moving out of the hole and around the hole in the middle of the night.
Oh, wow. I have no idea. That's actually kind of strange. Are there just like balls of lights that are just floating around the hole?
Well, he said sometimes they're like moving orbs around the top of the pit, and then other times he says that they look like lasers almost coming out of the hole.
Oh, okay. I mean, from that standpoint, I mean, for me, it kind of sounds like it's like either like alien probes, like coming from out of the hole. Because I mean, it's kind of strange that like lasers. That's kind of weird. I mean,
interesting thing. Oh, you can go ahead. Sorry, Britt.
Oh, I was just going to say that just from that it kind of sounds like it's alien related.
I was going to say an interesting note. Some people think that the Native Americans used to dump their dead bodies down the hole, is what one theory is. So.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
wasn't there
what is it?
I was going to say there's always strange things associated with Indian burial grounds.
Yeah. There's that story where it's, I guess Mel, his dog had died, and he dropped his dog's body down in the hole. And this is really creepy here. I guess apparently he said he went back to the house, and he was hearing noises outside. So this a few hours later, I guess the middle of the night. He looked outside his window, and the dog was literally almost like a ghost form, or I don't recall. But I guess he said he had seen his dog outside of the house, running around outside after he just dropped it off in this hole. Almost that the dog was either reincarnated or... I don't recall if... I think the dog was like ghost, but it could have been like reincarnated, so I don't recall. But either way...
Sounds like them... Oh, keep going on ahead. I was going to say, it sounds like the movie Pet Sematary.
Yeah. So, what do you think about that?
That's really weird. A guy dumps his dead dog down into the hole, and he sees the dog running around a little bit later. I find that quite peculiar, and if he's telling you the truth, that definitely is a paranormal, supernatural phenomena right there.
So, we got to put Dallas in the hole. Maybe he'll come up.
Yeah.
But, well, there's, I guess, Mel's Hole, supposedly the location is top secret, unless you live in the area. I guess because they don't want people playing around with the hole or coming around that area. But there's groups that apparently come out and look for this hole. They scour the countryside or all that type of thing. And I was going to say, Nick, didn't you and me find a website where they claim they found it?
Yeah, we found a website or two that claimed to have found the hole. But as I stated earlier in the show, if you type any coordinates in for that area, it's a completely blacked out area on the map.
Mm-hmm. Well, like Nick was saying earlier, I guess the government apparently, when Art Bell on another radio show, he actually followed up with Mel Waters. And Mel Waters had said apparently Mel Waters had come up with a streak of random bad luck. He had lost his home. The government had owned the home and the land. And I guess Mel was poor and almost to the point of being homeless when they checked back with him. So, Brent, why do you think the government would buy this land? And do you think that his bad luck was associated with the government?
I don't know. It's kind of strange that the government would want to buy the land. I mean, what real use would the government have for Mel's Hole?
Apparently, he said that they were testing out like bombs and things in the hole.
I could hardly hear you.
Oh, I said. Apparently, he said that they were testing out like bombs and weapons down in the hole.
Oh, really?
Well, he said they used some sort of a sonar thing, and he said that they seen that there was water. Like, once you got to the very, like, deep down in the hole, apparently he said that they thought they had water in there.
Oh, that's interesting.
Sounds
Maybe
like
it leads
Nick,
to...
you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, it sounds like someone's on Skype or something.
Oh, I don't know.
What's that?
It sounds like someone's on Skype or something almost.
Yeah.
But, what was I going to say? What's interesting about Mel's Hole? He said that there's brickwork at the top of the hole. I guess there's obviously, like, brickwork. Like, someone had made, like, an elaborate, it's almost like a well. Someone had made an elaborate brickwork around the rim of the hole. I guess he said it goes down, like, 1 or 2 stories. And then I guess he said it turns into just dirt. But they don't know who did the brickwork or how old it is or any of that. But apparently somebody thought it was important enough to put the brickwork around it. Nick did it.
Yeah, I did it.
Why?
Hey, Jared.
What's that?
Hey, Jared. Didn't the sounds from hell come from Mel's Hole?
Oh, no, that's a different one. We're getting to that one next.
Okay. I was just making sure.
Well, now that Brent brought it up, Tim just called back in. We're going to mention there's something, I think it's, in Siberia, Russia. Apparently there's another bottomless, endless pit that's worth mentioning. There were some Russian miners, or they're either scientists or miners. They're drilling this hole several stories beneath the ground. I don't recall how far, a few thousand feet. But they came to this one cavern. I guess opened up into like a cavern, and apparently, when they walked into this cavern, they heard thousands of people screaming and yelling, and I guess these workers got terrified and literally ran off the job site, never returned. But a few years later, they got an expedition team to go back into this cavern, and they tape recorded what they call the sounds from hell. Of course, they didn't drill on the other side of the cavern. I mean, I wouldn't, personally, of course, but they tape recorded what they say are the sounds of hell, and it's a worldwide famous recording. Would you like to mention anything else about the story, Brent, or what you personally heard on the sound recording?
Well, sorry. Well, from what I heard on the sound recording, it was actually kind of scary to listen to it. Just hearing all the stuff going on on audio. I mean, if it came from down there, I mean, that's kind of scary.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that is creepy.
Yeah, I heard the recording myself, and my bad.
No, go ahead, Nick.
I was just saying I heard the recording myself, and it had me sweating a little bit. I can't really describe it. It sounds like it's a bunch of people screaming and yelling in terror all at once. That's the best way to describe it. 1,000 people yelling in terror at once.
But what's Too bad I didn't get the sound recording to that, but I could probably get it for tomorrow's show. I'll put it on. But the interesting thing to mention about that recording, apparently Art Bell, the radio show host, apparently he paid some people to go over there and check out this hole, and apparently he said that when they came back, the hole was basically closed off because they didn't want people going down there, or they were afraid of this hole. He said that they closed off the hole and that now you can't even go near that place. And none of the workers, by the way, will, besides the initial interview, none of them will talk about this story. I guess it scared them that bad.
Well, I can hit you guys with another pop culture reference. We all know it's a cover-up.
You tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
We all know it's a cover-up by the government to go down into hell and recruit things like Hellboy to fight crime. That's what it has to be.
Yeah. But, I mean, from hearing the recording, it literally sounds like the way I would picture hell. You know what I mean, Nick?
Yeah, it does. It really does.
That's the way I would picture hell. And we don't have it, unfortunately, right now, do we, Jerry?
No, I can look for it, though. But
well, Mustang Sally in the chat room said she heard a story of a portal where people disappeared all the time for years, and afterwards they heard tons of screams coming out of it. So she was saying maybe it's some sort of a portal, or it's a portal near a doorway.
Yeah, it could be that.
So can you guys talk about that for a moment while I try to find the sounds from hell?
Yeah, you should. But I mean, I mean, that's hearing that recording, it is, like you said, it gives you the chills because it's the way you would picture hell sounding, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. I mean, Brent's already been to hell in Dante's Inferno, the video game.
You went to, what's that place called? Disc? Yeah, you went to Disc, Brent, when you were Dante?
What's that?
What's that place in the bottom of hell in Dante's Inferno? Disc? I think that's what they call it.
Well, there's the 7 circles of hell, of course. Yeah, and I think it's called the Abyss in the farthest one, but...
Yeah.
Frank killed the Grim Reaper and took his staff.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
But no, I mean, all you got to, from hearing the sound effects Jeremy's trying to find right now, all you got to really do is just picture there being flames and people being tortured and, you bet yourself hell, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure I found the file. I just have to double check to make sure it's the right one. But
oh, okay. But I mean, yeah, there are several holes throughout the United States and the world that I've heard of personally that's supposed to like be bottomless pits to hell. But I mean, I don't know if you believe in hell. It possibly could be, but if it's not hell, who knows what it is? It's something not good down there.
Well, something that I was looking at while looking for the file, I was just thinking. I know a few years back we had a guy come on our show who said that he knew of a hole that was in, I guess it was in the Mojave Desert somewhere. And apparently it was one of these bottomless pit type things. And I guess he said apparently eventually they got some sort of a rover, like a robot, to go down in this hole. He said they found some sort of life forms that they thought were extinct from the dinosaurs. I guess they were living in this small little cavern. So.
That's interesting. Well, I think we have a future trip, and Nick, you're going to be the one to be lowered in there. How's that sound?
So, Brent, there is another hole in Utah. No, it's northern Nevada. There's an endless pit like this. And I was going to say, I'm not really so familiar with that one, but I know for a fact that one is covered up. They put a cement covering over the top of that one. They said that people were starting to come and look at it and everything, and they didn't want people to start getting hurt. So, Brett, if you and me get lowered down into the hole on a rope, are you going to be the guy with the flashlight?
Yes, I'll be the guy with the flashlight.
Maybe you got the flashlight or the guy with the tape recorder, right?
With the flashlight, definitely.
What do you think, Nick?
I'll be brave. I'll do the tape recorder. Send me. So, but what way should I go down? Bottoms up or bottoms down?
Oh, I thought you were talking about that song.
Bottoms up, bottoms up. No.
Bottoms up. The bottoms up, go in the Mel's hole, but you know that ain't enough.
Exactly, they're hating on us. We're going to Mel's hole.
Well, on a more interesting note.
Yeah.
How are those ancient life forms living down in that hole? I mean, that's weird how such a small little area could have all of those animals down there, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I heard of something in the past year where some scientists went into China. You might want to Google this to fact check me, but I think this is right. Some scientists went into China and they found a subterranean rainforest. A rainforest.
Oh, yeah. Can you talk about that for a minute, Nick?
Oh, okay. I only know a little bit, but I'll give you what I know. Last year, or 2010, I'm not sure, 2011 or 2010, a couple scientists, a team of scientists went over to China, and they found a subterranean rainforest underground, which had tall trees and a flowing river and just a whole mess of things. So if something like that exists in China, I'm sure there's more than one subterranean rainforest in the world. So there could be a subterranean rainforest down at the bottom of this hole in northern Nevada where these creatures were alive.
Could
That's
be,
perfect
yeah.
environment.
So you think that there could be weird types of animals down there that are undiscovered, Nick?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, again, it kind of, maybe off topic a little bit, but, Bill Tracer's theory of a hollow earth, maybe that's where the reptoids are, if it's real.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
I'm
uploading that audio right now.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, it's kind of chilling to hear every time we hear it, huh, Brent?
Yeah, it's actually very eye-opening.
Brent giggles when he hears this.
He thinks it's so funny.
He wants to go in that hole.
Put me in a hole, he says.
But no. So do you think that Mel's hole could possibly lead to hell?
I mean, it's a possibility if they recorded that in there, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know how else you would explain something like that.
Well,
I think Sally was saying maybe it's near a portal or something too that could lead to hell.
We should go to Rachel and ask that guy in that diner. Maybe he was the guy they lowered down on the rope.
He came down. He went down normal and he came up screaming, "Okay."
But all right, I'm going to see if the file's on here. But you figure a lot of these people are saying that these pits lead to hell or they lead to a different dimension. That's a theory we haven't talked about yet. Nick, what do you think the possibility of a different dimension, or maybe the dog came to life because it somehow was in a different realm or something?
Well, it's entirely possible because we do not know a lot about what goes on beneath the surface of the earth. I remember years and years ago in 7th grade science class, a teacher told me, or not just me, but the entire class, he said, I'm telling you about the core of the earth being made of nickel and that there's a few layers in the earth and this, and this. He goes, the truth is nobody really knows. This is just our best guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that's resonated with me years and years later as a man who appreciates the discipline of science, I realize that a lot of the stuff that scientists purport to know are just the best guesses that they have because they really don't know, and they just take a little bit of information and then they have to do the best they can with what they know. So, for all we know, there could be different portals to different dimensions down in the middle of the earth. It's a complete open possibility.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've managed to get the file of the Sounds of Hell. It's 2 minutes long. I'm going to play it for everybody.
All right.
Now, I've got a clean copy of it now, and I warn you, this could scare you. Here's the email. Dear Art Bell, I just recently began listening to your radio show and could not believe it when you talked about the sounds from hell tonight. My uncle had told me this story a couple of years ago, and I didn't believe him. Like one of your listeners who discounted the story as nothing more than just a religious newspaper fabricated account. The story about the digging of the hole and the hearing of the sounds from hell is very real. It did occur in Siberia. My uncle collected videos and audio tapes and so forth on the paranormal, supernatural. He passed away fairly recently, but he would have loved your show. He let me listen to one of the audio tapes that he had on the sounds from hell in Siberia, and I copied it. He received his copy from a friend who worked at the BBC. It took me a while to find it tonight, but attached is that sound from my uncle's tapes. It's not the greatest quality, but the sounds are there. I was very hesitant to send you this, as the sound bothers me to listen to. I'd suggest that if you do play it on the program, warn listeners in advance so they may have the option of turning the radio off for 30 seconds while it plays. It has always haunted me. To those who discounted the Siberia Sounds from Hell story, it is true, and I, for one, wish it wasn't. Rick, listening from Chicago. And so I submit now the cleaned, a better copy to you, and I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Yeah, there's a lot of words. What do you think, Brent?
Just hearing it again is scary.
I mean, and what, you know, how is there any explanation as to how, you know, a man or someone could hoax that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. He said that there were Russian scientists, I guess is what the story was. I was unsure earlier. I guess they were scientists, and for them to run off in terror, I mean, most of those types of people are skeptics.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think what we need to do is we need to go in that hole, and we need to send Brent down on a rope and see what's on the other side of the wall.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I'll have to think about that one.
Brent. So I guess he said it was 5 miles down, apparently. Around 5 miles is what the story was saying.
Wow.
So, I don't know. Is there anything lower than 5 miles beneath the ground as far as bunkers or bases go for the military?
I don't think so. That's pretty far down there.
Yeah, 5 miles down. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
Oh, no, go ahead, Nick. You tell me.
I was going to say 5 miles down is close to 40,000 feet.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I know most bunkers are built within 1 to 2 miles down. That's the farthest. I mean, that's like, we're talking secret space, you know what I mean? Like Area 51 status.
Mhm.
So 5.
Let me correct myself, though.
Yeah, 5 miles is quite a feat there.
5 miles is close to 30,000 feet.
Does anybody in our chat room have any opinions about the sound recording? Or not really?
Not really, yeah. Nick, there's someone in the pet chat room called Papa Bear. Yo, Papa.
Yo, Papa.
But here's what I was saying. Apparently the person that has the other pit similar to Mel's hole, I think it's in Sparks, Nevada. But I guess the hole is covered up at this point in time. And he said that he was seeing the weird lights similar to what Mel Waters was seeing at Mel's hole. But I guess it scared him pretty bad, and like I said, he didn't want anybody falling into the hole, so they ended up putting some kind of a covering on the top. Do you think this could just be some sort of an earthly phenomena, or do you think these strange lights and all that are just too strange to be explainable by just the Earth?
Well, I believe that it could be gases, perhaps. I don't want to state the often stated swamp gas theory, but perhaps there's some type of geothermal gases which come from the bottom of the earth and that could produce that type of light. That would be the only natural explanation I can think of.
Well, I know that the skeptics say that these strange lights and sounds that are coming out of the hole, they either say that these lights are similar to the northern lights, is what one of the theories is. The other theory regarding the sound, they either say that it's either hallucinating that you hear these strange sounds, like the sounds from hell, or they think that it's just the earth creaking and moving, tectonic plates and all that.
It just sounds funny to hear that they think it's a bunch of rocks hitting each other and colliding when it sounds very clearly like people yelling and screaming with a guy with a very deep voice in the background saying something.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, well, you figure. They say that this hole obviously has some sort of ghostly powers. I guess, so do you think that if you put up a camera or a tape recorder around this hole that you think you would tape ghostly phenomena?
That's definitely a possibility with all the weird stuff that's associated with these holes.
What if for our big trip this summer, if I planned for us to go to that hole in Sparks, Nevada?
Oh, God.
That'd be cool. I'd like to do it.
What would you do, Brent?
I don't know.
Would you be scared, or would you not care, or what?
I wouldn't care. I mean, I wouldn't be scared or anything, but I mean, would definitely be cautious.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to Home Depot and buy a spool of rope, and then we're gonna draw straws and lower someone down the hole.
Brent didn't give.
Huh?
I was saying Brent didn't give his answer to every what if question we asked him. I'd be pissed. That's his answer, isn't it, Brent?
Yeah.
But no.
You'd be pissed.
So we would have to, what kind of equipment do you think you would need, is a question on our Facebook, saying what kind of equipment would you need to investigate something like this, or is there any sort of equipment you could use to help you investigate?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's any equipment made to go down and end this pit with demons in the bottom. I'm not sure.
Well, I know one thing we need. We need some crowbars to pop the covers off the holes.
Mhm.
That'd be a good first step, wouldn't it?
Would you get a rope with a tape recorder attached to it and lower it down?
I'd rather get a metal chain, because a rope has much greater chance of breaking under the pressure and heat that a chain does.
But wouldn't the chain be a lot heavier, though?
Yeah, wouldn't that make it better to lower it down?
Yeah, so it doesn't melt or burn you.
Well, yeah, of course. But, I mean, over time, you know, hundreds of feet of chain starts to add up into a lot of weight, you know. Unless we had, like, a winch or something to pull it up, and then, yeah, I could definitely see that.
So
what are you talking about, Brent? You're going to pull it up barehanded.
Yeah, you know me. I like to do things the hard way.
Theoretically speaking, if we lowered this tape recorder down in this hole and we taped something similar to the sounds from hell, do you think that we would just tear ass out of there and leave, or what would we do?
I don't know. I'd be pretty scared if we recorded sounds similar to what we just heard on that sound clip.
Yeah, that would be a little disturbing.
We hear Mike's voice come on the recorder.
Hey, Brent.
But, well, some guy in the chat room, Flycatch, he says he thinks that this hole is made, Nell's hole was made by aliens, is what he says. But he says they don't think, what do you call it? He said that they don't think that it's, they don't know why. Sorry, I was reading. But Tim, you said you wanted to read something from our chat room?
Not that I'm aware of. Oh, I think Sally said there's a hole in New Zealand. People were going there for years, and they keep, no matter what, it keeps filling with water. And she said it was either an island on New Zealand or it was New Zealand, but I guess she said people tried dumping like paint down there, and it's then one all over, like, you know, all over the island. I guess it was like an underwater system. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They found the paint all over the island, so they dumped it in this giant hole, and it's all over the island because it's like an underground system or something like that.
Well, an interesting note I was just thinking of. On our news articles, for those of you people that weren't paying attention earlier, weren't here, they said that there was a giant hole supposedly in Austria where they thought that there was a UFO buried in this pit, but they said the archaeologists were saying that they think the pit went further down than where this UFO was at, or this alleged UFO. I was like, Nick, what would be beneath the UFO if you think it could have been one of these bottomless, endless pits that they're talking about?
Yeah, it could be. I don't see why not. Perhaps here's a really, really far out Planet X theory, but perhaps the UFOs are interested in the holes themselves, and a UFO went to go investigate one of these bottomless holes and got trapped.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know that there's some stories of bottomless pits in Antarctica and near Iceland, and they said that they see UFOs coming in and out of these holes all the time, and apparently there's videos of it.
Well, you know the aliens and predators are...
Oh, what's that?
You know the aliens and predators are fighting down underneath Antarctica, so that takes care of that hole.
Huh. But no, I was saying, Brent, what do you think that maybe these holes could be some sort of transportation for alien spacecraft? Maybe, like Nick, maybe they're curious themselves, or maybe they use them to travel.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. They could just have they could have just dug these big holes a long time ago with whatever equipment they used for that, their future equipment. But they could have used these holes to travel travel great distances underground without being detected.
Well, that goes along with... What's that, Nick?
So it could be just like War of the Worlds, where the aliens came out of the ground to invade Earth. Maybe they're using it to hide out and prepare for an invasion.
Well, that goes along with what we had a guest on our show named Bill Tracer a few years back. And I guess, apparently Bill said that there was a theory that, I guess he belonged to some club or some group on the internet, and they were saying that they think that the reptoid, or a race of aliens, lives down in these holes, almost like what Nick was saying.
As I said, so Bill had a pretty good theory then.
Yeah, he did.
Sounds like you're really far away, Tim.
I don't know why.
That's better. But Flycatch in the chat room is saying, he says that he thinks the holes are placed perfectly with tectonic plate movement, or else they would be, I guess they would cave in, or they wouldn't be there, I guess is what he's trying to say.
Well, no, he's just saying they play like in really an important, like to where they're geologically placed, that they're usually near tectonic plates and important places on Earth.
Mm-hmm. So we have about 3.5 minutes left in the show. And I was going to say, before we end the show, I'd say, what's your final opinions on all this, on Mel's Hole and these other bottomless pits?
I don't know who's going first, but I'll go first. Well, I don't know. My personal opinion after hearing that recording and everything, I think they may be portals or something like Nothing Town would say, maybe portals to hell or maybe holes to hell. I don't know, but that's what I'm going to stick with most likely, but it's really up in the air.
Well, I don't know precisely what are at the bottom of these holes, but they definitely are pretty weird, and they deserve a lot more investigating.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have
Yeah,
to say.
Oh, for me, I'd have to say I'd agree with Nick. We definitely need to investigate these to actually find out what's really going on inside these holes. If they are a portal to hell, or if there are some kind of hole used as transportation for otherworldly beings, or I don't know. You just have to find out.
Well, an announcement I'd like to make, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show, we are going to have another show this Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific, and we're going to be talking about ancient aliens and proof that aliens were here thousands of years ago, I guess would be the correct way to phrase that. And it's personally handpicked by Brent, so it should be a pretty good show. But, again, I'd like to thank everybody that contributed to the show in our chat room, on our Facebook, and our Twitter, and all those sorts of, all of our social media. And, again, I'd like to have my co-host say their goodbyes for today.
Take care.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening.
And again, thanks, everybody. We will have to do it again tomorrow.